This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guy Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
It's a BTL bonus show where we're going to talk about bass fishing with the guy who invented BTL. If you haven't listened to the first show already this morning, Easton Fothergill, fresh off of the 2025 Bassmaster Classic on Lake Ray Roberts in Fort Worth, took a different approach to that interview, really kind of dove into the behind the scenes of on the water, how he found those fish. There's a lot of guys that are on the Elite Series currently that were in that Bassmaster Classic that are some of the most talented anglers in the world when it comes to timber scoping, which is what Easton was doing. He kind of walked through how he did that. However, he was able to be dominant with the timber scoping. And I think after picking his brain and getting inside his mind a little bit for an hour, it really shows how many levels he was thinking ahead. I mean, dude, the ability to sit and to analyze where a fish is located on a piece of structure at 22 years old, and then wait until that fish is accessible, or the foresight to use a jerk bait or reaction bait to pull a fish out from the cover without it biting, and then pick up the Nico to follow it up. The understanding to find the areas of the lake where the fish were going to spawn, areas where Lee Livesey and a number of the other top 10 finishing anglers were fishing up shallow in the vegetation. And he looked for that vegetation and then fished out from it. The ability to navigate the conditions and the wind, and then the mental aspect of having to catch up after day one, of having an 8-pound lead after day two, and then fishing until he had 15 minutes left on day three without a limit, having lost a 7-pounder earlier that day, knowing in his mind that he had given the Classic away, and then to catch that 8-pounder at the last and to keep all of his wits about him. Pretty impressive. Someone else who, for the most part, over the course of their life has done a pretty good job of keeping their wits about him. It's Mark Jeffries.
I don't know about that, but
founder of the Bass Zone MBTL and current head coach of the Southern Nazarene University Collegiate Bowling Program. Yes. Mark, thanks for jumping on BTL today.
Always a pleasure to come back. And dude, I watched that whole interview. Most impressive. I mean, you did a great job. And I don't know a whole lot about that kid. I did listen to your process of from the start to him winning the Classic.
Yeah.
As far as his career, that was epic. So I learned a lot about that kid from there. But it wasn't the typical post-Classic interview, and I loved it. It was great. You did great, man.
For an angler that's that young, he has faced an immense amount of pressure early in his career, not only from the health standpoints. You know, he made that Classic bracket, or he finished 5th in that national championship. Yeah. And if you remember, you were deep into Bass Talk Live and the Bass Zone when Andrew Upshaw, I think it was 2012, became the first collegiate angler to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
So that was 13 years ago. And at the time, and even since then, I think Bass took a lot of heat from the anglers, from the media, from the fans who said, hey, this is the Bassmaster Classic. Why the hell are we letting a college kid in this thing? They don't have to qualify through the same thing. They qualify as a team. Then they go to all this different thing. Like, they took a lot of crap from it. I know there were some high-end anglers who said there is no business for a collegiate angler to be in the Bassmaster Classic. Now, that's nothing against of the Upshaws and the Jordan Lees and the guys who actually did it. Hell, we all would take that opportunity if it was available. But go back. Do you remember those conversations? We did shows at it.
I did.
And perhaps like at the time we were going, how are you quote cheapening this Bassmaster Classic? We had seen some of a couple of the women's anglers when the women's professional tour was there, historically similar to like the US Open in golf, the Bass Nation, which was the Bass Federation Nation before that. Obviously, I've got the fish whistle here from the 94 Bassmaster Classic champ, Brian Kirchhoff, the only Federation Nation angler to win it. But that has always been a part of the Classic, is bringing in a couple amateur guys, the Opens, points, champs, that type of thing for the field. But there was a lot of heat on bringing that college angler in back in 2000, in the early 2010s.
Would you classify him as a Cinderella story? Or is it just a result of all the adversity and the hard work that he's put in?
It's not a Cinderella story. It did not surprise me that he won. I mean, the guy at 21 won back 2 out of the 3 Opens. You know, I mean, we'll go back to what we used to also to the HFA, right? Yeah. Home field advantage. Like, how hard is that to go into a place where everyone is expecting you to win and blow the field away? Yeah. Right? Remember, it used to be a curse until Tommy Biffle did it.
So when I was watching the interview, was he at home?
Yeah, that was his room. What? Dude, lives like he fishes. He's got nothing on the damn walls. Not a single thing. I was like, are you still in the decompression room? He's like, no, I'm home. I'm not a big fan of things on the walls.
Interesting.
Before we went live.
All right, which brings me to the post-classic media blitz, if that's what you want to call it.
Well, we got to go back to the college thing, dude, because I teed that up. We need to talk about that.
What, about a college guy progressing and then winning the Classic?
About Bassmaster, and FLW did the same thing back at the time. I think Chris Bergen, Austin Felix, Minnesota, there was a bunch of college kids that they did that on FLW. They took a lot of flack for that, for letting college kids into the Classic back then.
I think it's a good thing. I quite honestly, I was probably against it.
You were against it. You were against it, Mark, because they hadn't earned it. They hadn't earned their way through the Opens, to the Elite Series, to the Classic. And I was just out of college. I wasn't particularly for it at the time.
Yeah. Is things change, man. And as this sport continues to evolve, sometimes the way that you view stuff becomes changed as the progression of the sport changes. Now, 15 years ago, I could probably sit here and say very confident, even though I don't exactly recall it, that it was a bad thing. And the purity of what the Classic has meant for so many years, that's probably the premise that I stood upon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But, I don't want to dive into the conversation yet of what you and I first started, but you know what I did, man? And I went back and I watched, and somebody just threw up the 20 feet deep topic that we need to do another 20 feet deep on that. But I went back and I watched bits and pieces of the 49th, and just to see if the vibe was different there, because there were so many other things going on at that Classic.
Yeah, that was the last Classic where all of the traditional bass guys, it was they had just left bass for Major League Fishing, but then they had to come back to fish the Classic that they'd qualified for.
So at the time, that's funny, man. At the time, I really believe, because of the clarity, the tradition, the way things have been for so many years, that it was probably wrong to let that Classic dude in. And then at one time, there were players from the, what did they call the women's tour? Do you remember what they called it?
The WPBT, the Women's Professional Bass, or I think they might have just called it the. It was the equivalent of the Elite Series, except on the women's side. I think, was it Kim Bain and Pam Martin Wells were the two females that competed in the Classic before it folded.
Was it LBAA? Was that it?
I don't know.
I
remember you sent me there to cover the championship, the one that Kim Bain won. I think she won it on like a skinny dipper in the grass.
Wasn't it in Hot Springs?
I don't know. You sent me all over the damn country back then, Mark. I remember I was the only media person there.
Yeah. But once again, going back to that, though, there were a lot of people that were upset about that. About giving up spots.
And then they gave it to the team series champion. I think that's how Matt Robertson got in the first time before he was even on the Elite Series or through any of that stuff. Like, I mean, they've done it a number of different ways. My case in point wasn't to say, oh, you were wrong, Mark, was to say that was an excellent example of how Bass had the foresight to do that back then, whoever it was, and whoever stuck with it, and to take the flack and to grow that collegiate program to where it is a staple today, and it is making a very significant mark at the top level of professional bass fishing.
So I don't know if you know the answer to this. Maybe somebody out there knows. How has college bass fishing grown? Because of, when I say recent, I'm talking about the last 5 years. Has college bass fishing grown to where it is really becoming an important part of progressing toward that next step and becoming a professional?
It hasn't grown. It is. I mean, it's there. It has been there. The majority of anglers that are coming up on both tours that are qualifying for this fish at the collegiate level in some aspect. It's not, you can no longer just pick out, that's a guy who went through the college program. 70% of these kids that are coming through the college ranks are now on the Elite Series, and rookies and even established veterans on the Bass Pro Tour and winning invitationals and dominating opens. Like, it is the feeder. It is approaching, and I predicted this, it is approaching just like it is in, not to the level of college football, but I mean, it's almost more of a surprise if you have a young kid come in who's in his 20s who did not fish collegiately. To where, before you look at like Brandon Card and be like, that guy fished at Kentucky, right?
Right.
That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist anymore. Like 80% of the kids coming in fished somewhere.
So is it to the point where there are high school kids that are like the number one high school angler in the nation and that stuff, and like Monticello is the place to be, and kids are really striving? In other words, this whole situation, what Easton has created because of what he has done, is it going to impact if they tell the story, his story, to the masses of people that never really realized that, wow, this guy did this, and this?
Yeah. There's high school kids that are like, I've got it pulled up right now. I met him at the Classic Crawfish Boil on Monday night. Like, the number one recruit in the country. I don't want to put all this pressure on him. I put the pressure on him there too, but he is. It's the fact of the matter is Dylan Sorrells out of Texas.
Okay.
And he just announced, I don't want to get it wrong. I need to say where he announced he was going to, I need to see exactly where I literally am like, hey, I need to get you on BTL.
Yeah. Okay. So as a result of what Easton has done, is that going to help?
Yeah, Montevallo. There it is. Look at this. He announced it last September. Look at that picture right there. Committed. I mean, it literally looks like any other sport.
That's pretty cool.
And he's going to one of the top five, currently one of the top 5 colleges in the country, Montevallo. He just had a high school tournament. Him and his partner weighed in like matching 980s and had like 36 pounds.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, there's like those kids like are all going to those programs. Like, you get there, you see John Garrett and you see Easton Fothergill. I mean, obviously the most notoriable there was the back-to-back years with the Lee brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fascinated by the fact that this is developing and kind of evolving into a situation where you're going to see this more often. Do you not agree?
It's here. It's here. It's not developing. The situation has developed, Mark. Like if you're in this is the situation.
Okay.
And I think we also have to give a lot of credit to Wade Middleton in this too, with what he did with college bass.
Oh yeah.
And the collegiate bass fishing series.
He was the first one, right?
Yeah. He was very instrumental in this game, in the collegiate fishing, the development of taking it seriously with the national championships on Louisville. Also with bass, you have to give a lot of credit to Steve Bowman, who back in 2003, 2004 got Under Armour involved in this, the Under Armour College Bass National Championship. That was back when they were on ESPN. They ran it on ESPNU.
Yeah.
That's when, that first one, there were 18, 20 boats in, and then 36 boats in it. And then, FLW developed it on their side too, as that kind of went on a little bit later. But those are kind of the two genesis back in that 2001, 2, 3, 4 time range. I got in it in 2006 or 2007, right?
Yeah.
When there were like maybe 50 teams across the country. We were one of the first teams that had like a jersey. I mean, I've got the jersey on the wall with the bass zone on the back with Chip Porcher. He was my partner. But that first national championship, it was, hey, your school can send one team, and there were 37 teams.
Yeah.
And at the time, Wade Middleton's was drawing 100 and something boats because you could have multiple boats from each school.
Yeah. No, I'm thoroughly impressed with this kid. And
he's not a kid. I keep calling them kids. They're grown adults. They could go to war. They can vote. They can drink ice cold beer. Most of them. Trey McKinney can't yet.
To me, he's a kid.
I know, but I have to keep reminding myself that they are adults.
Yeah.
Just without anything on the walls in their bedroom.
Hey, throw the Clay comment up there about the need retired elite guys. You see that one?
No, the
need retired elite guys to be head fishing coaches, give them a path to retirement.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to have money for them to get paid.
I
mean, there's some like the college fishing and the college bowling scene is very similar, Mark, right now. Like on the outside, it looks big, but back when we did the college bass zone, which was a genius move on your part to somehow cut my salary on the bass zone by 10,000. And then because of, sponsorship was tough, but then be like, hey man, I'll pay you 10 grand to run this college bass zone website, but you have to build it, travel to it, and keep it up.
Yeah.
Where about 6 months in, I wrote, what the hell? I'm doing the same thing I did for bass zone. I'm running this whole other site that I have to travel for an update. I'm not making a set more.
Yeah,
that was a great strategy, but they're a school. So like SNU's like it where these smaller schools, I think, see the benefit in getting kids that would never have come to that college or knew that college existed, offering, academic and thinking outside the box scholarship wise to get them on the campus. And then in return, treat that club or non-NCAA regulated sport incredibly seriously. So you get kids who get the full collegiate athletic experience and get an education at a school where they wouldn't normally have gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that all well, I mean, let's just pull this up right here. I mean, there you go. The Crimson Storm.
Oh.
There's Mark Jeffries with the team. No man or woman is an island. Oh God, let me. Can we play this?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie. It's kind of the direction that I'm taking the program moving forward. It's like 5 minutes. I don't know if you want to.
No, we'll just play the beginning just to get a feel for it. Just to get a feel for it. I see you haven't changed your text or style in the last 15 years.
No, it's a new font.
No, new font.
Yeah.
Ooh. That was inspirational.
Yeah. You ever seen that movie?
No. Am I going to get
That's
flagged?
easy.
Yeah, I'm going to
No.
get flagged. We're going to get flagged. Oh, so this is just the whole movie clip.
It's just a clip from the movie.
I gotcha.
All right, because one of the biggest challenges that I have is I'm bringing in individuals that have basically been competitive individually, and they've never been in a team format. Where when I was coaching basketball, those kids have been playing basketball for, since they were 5 years old. They knew what a team was about. They knew how to be coached. They knew how to be a great teammate, and it's a massive challenge. Anyway, we didn't really want to talk about that, but dude, I have some questions for you. You there? You look like you're frozen.
Yeah, no, I just pulled up Wade. So the school of the year right now, as of like March 2025, and I don't know if there's other rankings on this, but Montevallo, Louisiana State out of Shreveport. I think I met their head coach at the Classic. He was freaking cool.
Have
McKendree.
We had a coach on, remember?
Yeah, I've had a bunch of coaches on. Tarleton, Wabash Valley, UNA, Bethel, Campbellsville, Drury. The only one that I don't... Oh, yeah, here's Dallas Baptist down in 18th. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same ones that have been, the top dogs for a number of years. And then, Auburn's in there. Stephen F. Austin. Does SNU have one?
No.
Anyway.
All right.
Ask away.
We kind of knocked out the college thing for Easton, but I am thoroughly impressed with the composure. I'm a little bit surprised, Matt, to hear that today is Thursday? Is that right? Wednesday? Today's Wednesday, and the dude's at home already. And probably been home for a while.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I don't know. Walk the listeners through especially when let's pick a year. So like when Skeet or Kevin won those classics back in like 08, 09, 10, 11, around there. Like because you knew it, you covered it, and we were trying to get them on. Like, what was a week for the Classic champ like back then?
Well, the entire week after the Classic, he was booked. All right. And the first thing that took place, typically, they would do a photo shoot. They would do a ton of photo shoots. They would go to the lake, the body of water, wherever the Classic was. They would do a photo shoot there. They would do a ton of interviews. They would do
what'd you call it? The wash or something?
Well, they do the car wash. That's where they would send the Classic champ to the ESPN headquarters in Connecticut, in Bristol, and he would do the rounds, what they called the car wash, with all of the talk shows that ESPN had at the time. First Take, I don't know. I can't remember all the ones that they had. And he would be a guest on all of those shows, right? Sometimes he would wear a jersey. Sometimes he wouldn't. My feeling on the whole jersey thing, I just think that, jerseys are meant not to do interviews like that when you're trying to showcase what the sport is all about.
Jerseys are meant to put number 22 on and hang in your shop.
That's where they stay, man. They never see the public eye unless I was playing men's league.
Oh, okay? Hey, real quick. I just got a message from Mercer. He's listening to the show. He said that Jerry McInnes was very influential in pushing for the college angler to be in the Bassmaster Classic. Dave said, I fought him on it too, but I was dead wrong. So there you go. Just make sure we get credit where credit is due there. Thanks.
Yeah,
Dave.
that's cool.
Anyway,
cool.
back to the Classic champ schedule.
Yeah. So then, after the car wash, then, you probably fly to one of your major sponsors' headquarters. You do a bunch of media stuff with them. And then typically you get home, a number of days after that. Sometimes, depending on where the Classic was held, you would even do some local media in between the times that you were doing the interviews and the photo shoots. I mean, you were tied up for a week, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, let me ask you this, and this was part of the discussion that we had on the phone. Is a Bassmaster Classic win worth $1 million? Yes or no?
That's what Funky Fisherman just asked as well. He said, you know what you don't hear anymore? That the Classic win is worth $1 million.
Yeah, it's not, in my opinion.
So I believe that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was for a couple reasons. One, it paid $500,000, not $300,000. So there's basically $250,000 that you're getting bonus. And two, there was a lot more emphasis put on classic winning baits, and sports shows were in their heyday, and there was no live. So if you wanted to see, meet, touch, get with the classic champion, you would have them. Remember, the classic guys would be busy, and you would say the classic hangover, because they wouldn't touch the water from October through February, because they would be at a different sports show that would pay them X thousands of dollars to stand on the hog trough, to kiss babies, to sign autographs. And those guys would go, I heard numbers anywhere from $3,000 to $20,000 for appearances, depending on how it is. Plus, then that bait would come out, and that was, the bait was a big deal. Like you were in the boat with Jay Yellis when he won. I mean, you think about all of the Denny Brower stuff, and every once in a while you'd have a classic where a bait wouldn't be able to like signature series that bait. And I know he came out with it after, but the first one I remember was when Casey Ashley won his classic, and it was like a homemade underspin on a fluke, right? And you're kind of like, ooh, this one's a little bit hard to, but it ended up coming out with all this stuff. Even Alton Jones, like Mop Jig back in 2008, like Booyah came out with it, the whole 9 yards. That doesn't seem to be as big of a factor. So you're taking the royalties out from that bait, which I would assume the classic champ, Jay Yellis, classic winning jig bait, whatever. You're getting royalties from that. You're making a couple $100,000 during that off season. Plus there were a lot more bonuses. I mean, there were boating truck and motor companies back then, Mark, to where if you won the classic, anything you were running, they just gave you. Like that was in the contract, the incentive. So then throw in another $100,000 there. And I think even if you weren't a dynamic personality with a huge following, it was worth $1 million.
Maybe. I would really be curious to see when that ended. It would be cool if guys would actually open up. You don't have to get down to the last cent, but just to answer one question, did Skeet Reese make $1 million on his win? What do you think?
Yes.
I agree. Okay. Obviously, I think Kevin did.
Yes. Did Cliff Pace make $1 million on his win?
At Grand Lake?
Yes.
No.
2013. There's your question.
No.
How do you judge that, though? Because you look at Black Label now, and Cliff Pace is absolutely killing it. He's got one of the best underground. Is that all a result of the notoriety that he got from that?
That's some name recognition.
That's what I'm saying. So what are you judging how much the classic win is worth? Like, how are you directly correlating it to the classic, and how much are you correlating it to? You're talking about $1 million in the year following the classic win. Okay. Yeah. No, Cliff Pace. No, but I think his peace of mind and sitting at home whittling crankbaits was more important to him than the $1 million.
Probably so. But remember, dude, back in the day,
what about Randy Howell? What about Randy Howell on Gunnersville in his hometown?
Ooh.
Did Randy make $1 million on it?
That would be a good one to see if he would open up about that. I would say no.
Did
he win it when it was $500,000 or $300,000?
I don't know. Should I ask him? Dude, I'll just do a whole show on that. I'll just get guys on that haven't won for a number of years, and we can just straight out talk.
It's a great topic.
I know, like on the FLW side, Scott Suggs won $1 million. They gave away $1 million for a couple of years. But then you also have to understand, during that era, that was the contract era. Remember, Bassmaster did a deal. How much are their contracts worth? There were a lot of smart guys. I mean, you're talking about the Edwins and the Kevins and the Skeets, and those guys, like, they had incentive laden contracts. I don't think that's as big a thing as it used to be. It used to be, hey, this, I get the royalties on this, but if I win an Elite Series, if I'm on the live, or if I'm on the cover of Bassmaster, this is before live, if I get the magazine cover, if I win Angler of the Year, if I win the Classic, it's an extra $100,000 or an extra $50,000. Yeah. And those companies signed it. Like, I mean, I've seen those contracts from back in the day. There's big chunks of money in that for those guys for hitting milestones.
Be a great show, man. It would be a great 20 feet deep too, but you'd have to have guys really kind of open up and not open up their IRA or their savings account, checking accounts, whatever. It would just be what happened. I mean, obviously we did a story on a guy that went down the path, and he told me that he made $1 million.
Dancing with the Devil?
Yeah.
He made $1 million back in the 80s?
What he said.
Oh, how reliable is that?
That's what he said, man.
Okay.
I mean, he said
for his word.
He said a lot of things in that documentary. All right. But he did said that he went through and burned through more than $1 million after he won the Classic. So
I think it stopped. This is my opinion. I think it stopped somewhere between Bassmaster Live and the Split, where it was the $1 million, because there was more access to them. You could actually see what they were throwing.
Yeah.
There was a ton of more media. Their exposure went through the roof to where it was no longer as valuable, and they still do it, but it was no longer as valuable to have a skeet reese at an expo where the only way you could talk to him, you could see him fish, you could get behind the scenes, you could get a few minutes with him, was to go to that expo, to get into the door to see him, or to go to an Elite Series event and see him. You could now log on to YouTube. You could watch BTL. You could watch Bass Live. I think that increased the overall value of their brands, but individually, I think it lowered their demand for in-person appearances.
Yeah.
And then when the Split happened, we're still I mean, you can say what you want. You've got the superstars, you've got the talent there, but it's not all in one spot. It's the Live PGA thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you could say 2015, 2016, 2017, somewhere around that time.
So
and then
10 years ago?
Yeah,
basically?
10 years ago.
Huh. Do you think that guys have won the Classic like Hank Cherry? I mean, what? He won how much in 2 years?
600,000.
Do you think these guys that win the Classic, do they have the resources in place to really understand that they can take that 600,000 and turn it into 1.1, 1.2 million? In other words, I mean, do you think that's one of the main things that Bass or their parents or whoever, their sponsors,
it's an individual? It just depends on who's financially
to get a financial manager.
I mean, dude, it's like that in anything in life. I promise you've done better with the money you made off BTL and Bass Zone than I have. That's a personal thing. That has nothing to do with whether they're anglers. But I also know that Hank Cherry came off of those back-to-back Classic wins with a whole new sponsor lineup and a whole new wrap and whole new lines of baits and rods and all sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, he made a lot of money off of that.
He did.
Jordan Lee, same thing. I mean, look at the deals that Jordan Lee signed. And I know you're on the low side of this, but on the high side of this, those are a lot of lucrative deals for those guys. I mean, I've heard some of those numbers, from them, not just like how much did you make, but you hear those numbers floated around and you throw the royalties on top of it, which, the jerk baits, the baits back in the day, who knows what's going on now with a lot of it being components, like, Easton, like that component for the Nico rig, that hook, the nail weight, the worm, like individually, none of those are a buy this crankbait for $10 with the Bassmaster Classic signature on it, and Easton gets $1.50 for the next 10 years. And you can go into the store and you can say, I want that from Easton Fothergill. You have to order that little Nico hack. You have to order the hook. You have to buy the pack of worms, and you have to buy the nail weight from 4 different things. And I don't think any 4 of those things are available on one spot online. And they're all different brands. And they're all repeatable, and they're not trademarkable. Like you can't chatterbait them.
Yep. All right, let me ask you this. When is the Classic going to return to Ray Roberts?
I heard through the grapevine, 6 people down, that they're considering a Classic circuit that's 6 or 5 to 7 years, to where you have the venues, you know where it works, you get it, and it rotates.
So limit it to 6 or 7 venues?
I would say within. Now it also depends. This was not a well-attended Classic for a myriad of reasons.
Well, what? Being what? What are some of those reasons?
Traffic, 1. 2,
Agree.
been there, done that, 2001 in June. 3, the venue required the attendees at the arena to get tickets online before they could get in. Now, they were free tickets, but it wasn't just show up and walk in. You had to get the tickets, and then they also charged a lot of money for parking. I heard anywhere from $25 to $50. So if you were going to take your family there, you're going to go to the expo, which was free, which was fantastic. The expo, 9 out of 10, phenomenal. But then you had to get in the car. You had to navigate Fort Worth Dallas traffic during peak traffic times.
Right.
With your kids, who you just walked 2 miles around the expo, who are already cranky and tired, to then pay $40 for parking, to then get online and get 4 tickets to get in the venue to watch a 4.5 hour weigh-in.
Do you think people just, when you continually go to the same venue, the same people are going to that outdoor show because they want to see what's new and great, and the outdoor show is the pinnacle of the Classic, right? And whatever people want to say about it, you can say it. But I'm telling you, the people go to the Classic because of the expo show. They do. All right.
I think people go to the Classic for
listen, man, the weigh-in is not as important as it used to be. It's just not. You want to know why?
What's that? Why? Because it's live, because you know who wins, because of Bass Track. We're going to go down that whole
Dude,
path.
can you imagine any other sport where you're watching this on the internet, you're looking at the scores on the internet, and you have an opportunity to go see what the final of the game is, and you decide to show up? No, you're not going to do that.
I don't think you compare bass fishing to this sport in this case, Mark.
Dude,
can you imagine any other sport that when it goes to penalty kicks, they freaking cut it off? You have the live technology. I want to see him catch that fish live. That was an iconic moment, Mark, when they were about to cut it off and it was close. You're going to deny the tens of thousands of people that are watching it just so you have a more exciting Classic weigh-in. We have the technology now. We have it to where we could watch Easton Fothergill on live catch that 8-pounder in the last moment. That, to me, is more valuable than the excitement of a weigh-in. You don't cut it off when you have that technology. You let the listeners, the vast majority of which are watching it online, Mark, the vast majority of which have been invested with it for the past 3 days, you don't deny them that opportunity when it exists. You don't do that just to make the no, you said you just disagreed. You don't deny them that opportunity. I want to watch that live happening in person.
That is not what I said.
And Bass Track.
Matt, that is not what I said, okay? You have evolved. This business model has evolved to where the importance of the weigh-in just isn't there anymore. It's not. And the reason is because of what you just said. You're watching it. The fans that are really into it, you're watching it, you're reacting to it, you're feeling the emotion, you know.
I agree with that 100%. But here's what we're both saying in different avenues to get it. Bassmaster for the Classic needs to find a way to put their anglers, their sponsors, and I just texted him, and Dave Mercer in a better position to where they don't have to manufacture, they don't have to draw out. And even if you know the outcome, there is a 1.5 to 2 hour celebration of that final Classic to where you want to go to that venue to where that excitement is, to where you get the 10-minute jumbo screen with the fireworks and the smoke and the guys with their, their hats coming down. They go, this is all I've ever wanted, blah, blah, where you get those goosebumps. Like, you live for those 10 minutes. You can't take that away. You still get that. Are you still considered a guest?
Maybe.
Are we saying the same thing? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, here, let me just crystal clear. I think the weigh-ins, overrated, right? The model and the business model, what have I always said? You got to take care of the fans, the players, the anglers, okay? The ownership, right? And the sponsors. What you just said, Matt, is most of the eyeballs are going to be on that moment that is being broadcasted live. We didn't used to have that. Nobody knew what was going on at the Bassmaster Classic. The rumblings and the rumor mill, Jay caught this or Kevin caught this, or, you're not going to know until you get inside of that arena and see what happens. That's why this has evolved into, you got to put more importance, more visibility, and you got to make more money on the live than the amount of money that you are spending on the arena. Okay? So you got to do one of two things. Either you put the emphasis on the live and telling everybody what's going on and what they're doing and change the way that you do the weigh-in, or you cut it off, and the only way that you're going to find out is if you go to the weigh-in. All right?
Well, live with no weight, live with no bass track.
Hence, which brings me to a thought, which was part of the discussion that we had, right? Are there venues that the Classic needs to either return to or go to for the fourth time? Not to grow the sport, because I hate that. I hate that phrase. But to make the sport better. You got to make it better. So it is a huge challenge right now to put emphasis on, all right, where are we going to make the most money? Where are we going to give the fans what we want? Where are we going to take care of the sponsors? And how are we going to make money as an ownership? All right, one of the most challenging jobs in the industry right now, and I give it up to him, is Dave Mercer. All right, you got an earpiece in your ear. You got people, you got an arena that you're trying to fill that you can't. Now you got an hour and a half of Fort Worth traffic where guys are stuck, and you got to do fill time.
And you know who's going to win by 10 pounds.
Exactly. That's brutal. That is a brutal position to be put in. So listen, man, bottom line is this. Only in my opinion, right, and only for the purpose of this show, remember, man, when I was on the show and when we did this and you and I had arguments, I never complained. I always said, look, this is where I think that the situation is. Here is a suggestion or a solution, a potential solution to the dilemma, the challenge, whatever it might be. Look, they have a serious challenge. You cannot continue this venue and this event in venues where you're going to have thousands of seats empty and have a 5-hour weigh-in.
I don't think the seats are empty because of lack of interest.
Okay, but back up, man. They're empty.
I know. I'm just saying it's not. People are saying, "Well, look at Bass. They're sucking. There's not people going. People don't care about it." I still think people care about it. I think it was just a pain in the ass to get there.
That's part of it. Okay.
But Fort Worth also, that's what they had to work with.
Dude, they know what's happening. All right. Here's the other thing. What would happen? All right. Where is the majority of people during the 3 days of the Classic? Where are the majority of the people?
At the expo.
Okay. How do you get those people to go from the expo to the arena? Well, they went in, they got their stuff, they bought it. What are they going to do? They're going to go back to their...
Right, but if you don't have the facilities where you can have the expo right next to the arena, that's why. So like next year, they're going to go back to Knoxville, and it's going to be packed. because you can watch the weigh-in, or you can watch the takeoff. You can watch the guys take off under the bridge. You can walk to the expo, and then you can walk to the weigh-in. It would have been the exact same at Fort Worth this year had they been close. And I also think Fort Worth is a victim of their own success. And I experienced this some because I didn't go to the weigh-in, because there's a bunch of badass stuff to do in Fort Worth. You've got the stockyards. You've got all the country stuff. You've got the restaurants. You've got the concert venues. You've got Billy Bob's. You've got all sorts of stuff to where, you know, it looks like, oh, no one went to this class. Dude, you could not get into the stockyards for 2 nights of that thing.
I agree.
And it was guys watching with fishing stuff all over. You go into every single restaurant, it's packed. You see AFCO, you see all sorts of apparel, guys who are clearly there for the fishing with their families, fans, people that are there. And they just chose to spend their money in Fort Worth as opposed to going to that weigh-in.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of extenuating circumstances here, but I agree with you 100%. I want to get back to that, to where Mercer doesn't know who the hell's going to win, because that's when he's at his best on the Elite Series. Those calls, he's got to have 7 different guys dialed up into his head.
They have to make a choice, dude. They really do. They have to decide where they want to put the resources, to where, one, all right, they take care of the anglers, they take care of the fans, they take care of the sponsors, but they got to make money too. All right. And I don't know what the financial arrangement was that they had with Dickies Arena and the city of Fort Worth and all that and everything, but I bet the city and Dickies Arena are not letting them in there for nothing. There's got to be some kind of concession or percentage. And I realize that they are gaining from the tax revenue that's generated from having their event. And I mean, that's just how any of the Bass or MLF or any of those work, is because the city wants to get them there because of the tax benefit and the revenue that's generated from having an event in a city like that. But listen, man, you can't have both. That is the bottom line, my opinion. You cannot have both. You can't tell people what's happening and then expect people to show up when they know what's happening. Okay? Some have suggested, hey, shut it off at noon. You know, just kill the live, kill fast track to where you don't know. Will that get people in? I don't know. I just think the weigh-in is not what the weigh-in used to be. It's just not. And the reason that it's not, in my opinion, is because of the technology that is available to the fans, to where they don't have any reason to go. Think about when the technology wasn't there, Matt. Why did you go to the weigh-in? Because you wanted to see who won. You didn't know. You had no idea. You thought maybe. I mean, Dewey Hendrick, he was like the guy. He was the guy that knew everything, and he was sworn to secrecy and didn't talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
People, they're not going to pay for parking. They're not going to hang around. They're going to spend the majority of their time. So let me ask you this question. Is the golden gem now of the Bassmaster Classic the Expo? Yes or no? Is the Expo more important than the weigh-in? Tough question. Is it not? Okay, so let me throw this out at you.
Without the weigh-in.
What if?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I agree.
It is. Okay. So what if, and this goes to change.
Here's a Mark Jeffries idea.
What if you kick off Classic Week with the Expo and you have no fishing going on, and the entire focus, you have the anglers there, the guys that are in it, they're in the Expo for 3 days, and the whole focus, and I don't know what the right number of days are, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is. Now you get to interact with the guys that are there. And most importantly, all right, you don't have 2 things going on at the same time. You don't. All right.
What if you just combine
the next 3 days? Where's the focus? Focus is on the actual event. All right. It's on the actual event. Now, what do? Do you put more emphasis on live and the coverage that is done because of the technology that has evolved and developed? Or do you cut out the technology throw out bits and pieces and really create an environment of this is why you need to be at the weigh-in. Where's the Whiffum right now? Remember Whiffum, Matt?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me to go to the weigh-in when I can watch guys weigh in fish at the lake that's right by me. All right, but now I'm giving you 2 or 3 days to interact with the guys there and massively sell and expose your product. I mean, then the focus goes completely on what's going down on the 3 days. Something to think about. All right, here. Now I got this. Let's move on. Let me give you some cities. You tell me yes or no if they're good classic cities. Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Yes.
Lake Washington. They
or
have the
Hamilton or DeGray or.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, too. You don't need to be in a 20,000 seat arena. Okay? Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right? Somebody mentioned this on the instant feedback. Nashville.
You're going to run into the same things that you run into at Fort Worth with the traffic there. And you're also going to have a city where people want to experience Nashville just like they wanted to Fort Worth. Like, I think Fort Worth did a great job of hosting the Classic.
No, I agree. All right. Let me continue. Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's been there.
All right. Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, it's been there.
Richmond, Virginia.
You're approaching, and I know this is going to get into your next point, but you're approaching the time of the year where it could be a little bit dicey.
Hang on. All right. Stockton, California.
In theory, yes. Except the cost of travel.
Okay. Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much name anywhere where NASCAR is popular.
Okay. Here's the other thing. All right. And I'm just going to say Minneapolis, Minnesota. There might be a better place in Minnesota. But what about Minneapolis? And it's on my list. Somebody said that on the instant feedback.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to start moving the Classic around, then that opens up a whole different can of worms.
They got to do that, man. All right. Now, you and I kind of get into a disagreement. They have to move the Classic around.
Time of the year you're talking about.
Time of the year. All right. It cannot continue to be in the month of March. Now, next year in Knoxville, I'm going to tell you, and I don't know what the future scouting report is, right? But the NCAA women's tournament now, the first 2 games are at home. Okay? Now, what is the tendency of the University of Tennessee's women's basketball team? I don't know if you know this or not.
To win?
No, just to make the tournament.
They make it.
They make it, okay? If they do make it, they have a great season in 25-26. Guess where they're going to want to have their games at?
That arena.
That arena. That's a problem. Depending on what the date is. I don't know what the future date is, but that's a problem. All right, now
I'm surely they've thought that. I mean, there's people that's their jobs.
I don't know because it's just recently taken place.
Oh my God, we're an hour in.
All right, that you have the possibility of hosting your first 2 games. OU did it this year.
Yeah,
they beat who did they beat? Florida Atlantic, and then they beat Iowa at home.
The softball team finally lost a game to Missouri.
Yeah,
I was hoping they'd go undefeated all year.
Yeah. So now by moving the Classic around in different times of the year, be it spring, summer, fall, you open your product and the ability to make the sport better to other areas of the country where you really haven't been that much.
But how do you then justify, okay, let's just hypothetically say they do a June and then another March tournament after that. So let's say they do a March tournament at Knoxville, and then they announce that the 2027 Classic will be in Minneapolis in June of 2027. So you have a Classic champ who's the champ for 15 or 16 months. Then the next year it's back in March. So then you have a guy who wins in June, and he only gets to be the Classic champ for 7 months. How do you?
It doesn't mean as much as it did in the past. It's just, dude.
I'm just saying, if I'm going to be a Bassmaster Classic champ and I can get introduced as the reigning and defending Bassmaster Classic champ for a year and a half, as
anybody
going to
take that away from
season,
you?
No,
nobody's going to take that away from you. Look, the guy that won the Classic this year, he's home in his office, in his house, or wherever.
Bedroom,
whatever. All right. 12 months, 15 months, 6 months, 8 months, it doesn't matter, because it is better for the 4 people involved in this: the players, the business, the sponsors, and the fans.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. You're always going to be Classic champion. Nobody's going to take that away from you. All right. Mercer can still introduce you as the 2025 Bassmaster Classic champion. But think about how much better things would be in all aspects if you moved it around. All right. Especially on different bodies of water. Man, I would love to see a Classic in Minneapolis.
Charleston. Dave just said Charleston would be great.
Yeah, agree. All right. You got if you want to create a better situation and become more profitable, you got to move that thing around. But then you get into the same scenario that we just discussed, Matt. What's more important, the weigh-in or the coverage? Now, you go to Minneapolis for the first time. I don't care if you announce the winner at the boat ramp. I think you would still have a packed crowd at Minneapolis. The next year you go, maybe not. Yeah, somebody said go back to Pittsburgh. I don't think so. Nice thought, but that was a great Classic.
It's all, if this is, let's just hypothetically say, let's say Bass, because we're going to do that. And by the time that starts, you're 2028, 2029 before that. I mean, this thing works 2-3 years in advance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not something that could happen quickly. Sorry about the yell. When Mark and I get on the phone and start talking, I mean, that's how we talk. We get excited. Sorry about that.
All right. 2 things, Larry. Let me add a couple of things, and if you need to go on.
No. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, then we'll add those couple things. We'll get a drink. Right. Then we might do a little bit of the shop walkthrough. A lot of questions about the Mustang in the background.
Oh yeah.
A lot of questions about the hockey jerseys. A lot of questions about the bowling. It's a bonus BTL with Mark Jeffries. Wednesday after the Classic, March 26th. Take a quick break, and then who knows? I should have cleared up more. You know how we have I still have the premium thing on here, but I've only got 2.5 hours left, so we have to keep it under 2.5 hours. It's BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back.
Clean that up, Matt.
We got to get you down to Mexico, Mark. Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's 2 best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live. This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly, gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really, really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
All right, welcome back. Chatting with Mark Jeffries. What's next on your list, Mark?
All right. How many years has this thing been around, Matt?
56?
Yeah, close enough. It has come to the point that two things need to happen. All right. 50 plus years. All right. This needs to happen. They need to create a tournament of champions. They need to create that. Every single Elite Series champion in the history of the Elite Series, if they're still alive, they need to create that. And it's not going to take anything away from the Bassmaster Classic. But how many years has the Elite Series been?
17.
It's that time. All right. And I think that if they do it,
16,
if they do it in the 20th year of the Elite Series, how cool would that be?
You're not talking about the Bassmaster Classic. You're talking about
No.
bass fishing in general.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I'm talking about the Elite Series.
Yeah, no, that would be fantastic.
All right. And I'm not getting into what they can do and what they can't do, that whatever.
That would be
I'm not even
absolutely
gonna-
fantastic.
It needs to happen. I think it would be great for the fans. It would be great for the business. It would be great for the sponsors. All right. It'd be great for the players too. You earned a right. You earned it. You earned a spot in the Tournament of Champions. All right.
I'm in on that. I think that's a no-brainer.
All right. Second thing. Look, if you want to make money, you got to spend money. Bottom line. Agree with that statement? Yes or no, Matt?
Yes.
All right. They have, and I say Bass, and really any organization, but specifically Bass, they have a huge opportunity to take care of the four entities. They need, and I've said this before, and I don't care if people say, you got to stop saying it, Mark. You got to, you're on the show once every 4 or 5 months, and you say the same thing. I'm going to keep saying it. They need a senior tour. They need to spend money, and they need to create a senior tour. They've been doing this for 50 plus years. Okay, I get it takes money. I get it. But they need a senior tour. Be 4 stops, be 5 stops, whatever that number is, they need to have a senior tour. Once you turn 50, boom, you are eligible. All right. I think the fans would embrace it. All right. Maybe I'm going to say this. Maybe you don't do FF forward facing. All right. On the senior tour. Now think about if you did that. You still have the incredible talent of the young anglers out there doing, all right, their forward facing sonar stuff on the Elite Series, doing what they've done all their life. But at the same time, now you've given
Forward-facing sonar has nothing to do with age. Just continue.
yes, it has nothing to do with what?
Age. You can use it at 70. You can use it at 90.
Dude, I agree.
Just want to put that disclaimer in. Continue.
All right, we know, and you know what the elephant in the room is. All right, I just don't want to go down that path. But what I do want to say is it would give the opportunity to the guys that have spent and earned, all right, the title of professional angler on the Elite Series and prior to the Elite Series, that a senior tour would showcase their talent. That, let's face it, Matt, I'm going to say it. They just can't perform at the level that they need to because they're not spending the time and effort, and they may not even want to do it, to adapt to what the technology is bringing them. Fair statement?
Sure.
No, seriously.
No, it is. I'm trying to find other sports that have a senior tour other than golf is what I was looking up just to see if there were.
Tennis has a senior tour.
No, I agree.
All right. But I just think that the whole, hatred toward each other, the people that love forward-facing sonar and the people that absolutely despise it. Okay, Bass, let's make some money. All right. I'm all about making money. Let's make some money. All right. And I think the profitability of having a senior tour would be enough to where everybody would embrace. Now, some people will say, well, Mark, there's only X amount of dollars out there that the endemics can go for. Well, now look at the age, all right, and the demographic of kind of the population, all right, within that senior age group. They're all baby boomers. They're like myself, all right? That is a huge market target demographic that you could get outside endemics involved in the senior tour. All right. It's not going to be easy. You got to work hard. And probably the most important people in the senior tour to get a senior tour started in fishing is your sales and marketing people. Because you got to work. All right. But it's going to take money to make money. And I think maybe to start out, 4 senior events a year might be the right thing. Because, I mean, they're not doing it to make a living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see this. I see Johnny. That would be a perfect Bass Pro Shops opportunity. Have the weigh-ins at the Bass Pro Shops like he likes to do. Have the guys there for the autograph. I mean, heck, he fished with half of the guys who would fish them.
Yeah, but from the fan perspective, those guys that love, throwing a spinnerbait and a crankbait and, a jig and all that, they're going to see that on the senior tour.
Yeah, make it a 2-day event.
Yeah.
Fish till 1.
Well, no, dude. Fish till 3:00.
Well, then you have like the meet and greets after the weigh-in, so you get, just like you said at the Classic, you get to meet and greet them, and you get to watch the weigh-in.
Great idea.
Small. They have to have accomplished a certain amount of titles, money earned, top 10s, number of tournaments to qualify.
I mean, those people that are in sales that are watching or listening to the replay on this, right? It is a challenge. And it's not going to be easy, but at the same time, this is a brand that has been around for 50 plus years.
I see issues with, current Elite Series guys are fighting for every dollar they can get. Their entry fees are down, or they have no entry fees. They have a $1,000 participation fee that they pay in like 2 $5,000 deals. But I mean, if I'm on the Elite Series and I'm saying, well, why would the organization that this is the premier organization, why would they be funneling all these funds and resources to another, just hear me out here, to another league or another tour that could be put towards the Elite Series in the payouts, in coverage, in prize money, that type of thing, to be like, listen, you've told us that this is what the model that we're working with here, but now you're going to go have more publicity and split that up even more and have more stuff over here and more sponsors over there, instead of building your pinnacle top of the league organization that these guys have already been through and made good livings on and made their money in. I see it more so, in my opinion, instead of a tour, as a, like you mentioned, a tournament of champions, as a once a year thing, to where, just like they had the Bassmaster majors that were 3 or 4 times a year, once a year you have a senior / legends tournament. Once a year you have a tournament of champions that invites the Elite Series anglers back, and you build that around specific locations. So you would have the Classic, the senior tournament of champions, whatever, the legends tournament, and then you would have the tournament of champions. So you would end up kind of like they do with the majors in golf, except, you would have 3 separate tournaments throughout the year. So there would always be something to look forward to. And that way you wouldn't be funneling massive resources away from the Elite Series, which has always struggled to add money to the pot at the top level for them.
All right. My comeback to that is, one, as a business, when you go to expand or create new products, you have to make sure that you take care and continue to take care of the product that has got you to that point. Okay. So you cannot expand or develop new products or, start to diversify whatever your product or service is that you're selling to make money, unless you continue to take care of the core product that put you in a position to where you can expand your business. Because adding a senior tour, that's what you're doing. You're expanding your brand. All right? Expanding the brand. But you got to take care of the brand. What if Apple solely just focused on phones and that was it? And they're making a ton of money on phones, but they didn't expand and broaden their product.
All valid points.
Okay. Once again, all right, the choices have to be made over the next 5, 10, 15 years on the direction that this ship is going. All right? Because primarily, for all these years, what have the anglers done? They went out, they caught fish, they brought them back to the weigh-in, they got money. Okay? What are we doing right now, 56 years later? They go out, they fish, they catch, they bring them back to the weigh-in, they get money.
Yeah, it's the same thing in every sport, though. You go out, you hit a ball over a net, you win the sets, you get the trophy. You go out, you whack a ball all over the course, you hit it in the hole at the end, they give money to people who did it in the field. It's the same thing in every sport. You go around a track, the guy who does it the fastest, he gets money. You can't like say that with fishing and not compare it to all the other sports like that.
Dude, you're not getting the point. All right?
I am getting the point. I understand.
So just like what they have to do, they got to make a decision on where are they going to put the importance on, the classic show or the weigh-in. All right. Do they, Matt, they may not even want to expand. I mean, how many businesses out there do you see that they're just satisfied with the status quo? They're making good money. Why do I want to expand? I got the same amount of money coming in. Look at us, Matt. What would have happened if we would have continued to do what we did in 1997 to the point that you are at now? All right. What was the one thing I always told you?
As soon as we did something, you would say, all right, we're working on something for next year. What do you have new? That's
it. Okay. But the realization of the way that Bass has done things from a classic perspective, it's really kind of the same thing and been the same thing.
I agree.
Now, I'm not saying that it's horrible or bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is with any business, you get to the point where you really have to evaluate, are you doing the best that you can do and doing the right thing to take care of the anglers, the sponsors, the fans, and the business? And if you feel that you're doing that by doing and continuing the same thing, then maybe that broadened horizon or thought or ideas, just like the comment that you got from Mercer that he texted to you, that Jerry McGinnis had a big part in the collegiate stuff. He had a vision. He saw that. All right. I think professional fishing and bass is in a position now where they are at a point where they either just need to keep doing what they're doing or they really need to evaluate what is the best thing for business, the fans, the sponsors, and the anglers. Because having, thousands of empty seats at the pinnacle event in this sport is, in my opinion, there's a reason. Okay? Yeah. There's a reason. And you got to identify what that reason is and make it better.
Sean with a good point. He said, Mark is right. We're losing the biggest demographic in the population. I believe a senior tour of some sort would help keep the demographic. So let me tie that into when we had Rick Pierce on from Bass Cat Boats last month, who went out, walking up to the registration for the first open. And he said, look around. What do you see? And I said, I see I'm the oldest person here at 40 years old. And he said, exactly. He goes, there's never been a time at the top level of serious anglers where there's more young talent getting into the game. And he wasn't saying that. He was saying that, like a positive, like, look at how many 20 somethings there are. Before, it would be like, oh my God, Justin Lucas is 25. Look at Brandon Paul. Gary Klein was, way ahead of it. They were known. Remember when Bradley Roy was on the Elite Series? He was like a novelty. He was like 19 years old, and we were like, oh, we were on Clear Lake, and you were like, go find the teenager.
Yeah.
And we drove around Clear Lake to see this kid, this phenom out of Kentucky, who at 19 years old was on the Bassmaster. Now they're all like, so you have that demographic in the highest level of tournament bass fishing, which is really healthy for the sport. But I also really like that that comment that Sean and what you were saying about the senior tour. If you could somehow keep the demographic of lifers with disposable income, with the boats, with the time and money to do it while still bringing in the youth, then you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I agree. And, I love these conversations, Matt. It brings back, so many conversations that we had where I tried to lead it down the business route. And I'm telling you, man, it is at a point, and I really believe it's at a point, it's at a critical point on where are they going to put the emphasis? Where are they? And are they going to visit some of these new venues? And are they going to look at expanding the brand?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they just going to keep doing what they're doing?
That's good points. Very good points, Mark. Can we do a little Mark Jeffries Cribs edition?
What do you mean?
Walk us through the Mustang. I haven't seen the new Mustang. I know you've always been a Mustang guy, but I mean, it's been over your shoulder in the back. It's kind of baller. I'm not going to lie. What is it?
I've had, I have been a Mustang guy ever since, I bought my first Mustang. I think it was 1988 or 89. And, I've looked, this is a very limited edition Mustang that I have saved and worked. And it's kind of like you get to that point at my age and there's that one last thing or one thing that is like your dream car, or, some people want a boat or they want a lake house, whatever. I looked and looked and looked and eyed this Mustang for over a year. It's a limited edition. It is called the Mustang Dark Horse.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah.
Is that what Katy Perry was singing about?
No, I have no idea. Anyway, the color is really cool because I have a love for the color orange, which does make sense for an OU grad, but orange has always been one of my favorite colors. So the color is blue, amber, and when you look at it, sometimes it looks blue, sometimes it looks black, sometimes when the sun hits it perfectly, it's orange.
So it's Fighting Illini colors or Clemson colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So it's a race car.
Yeah.
It scares me. We have the Autobahn here in Oklahoma over on the way, the one turnpike where the speed limit's 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's ever on it. It's pretty cool to be able to.
Yeah. I get what you're putting down.
It's scary. It's scary.
The hockey jerseys, if Mark is a big fan, but I mean, let's see if I can name them. Whalers.
Yep.
Blues third jersey from 1994.
When Gretzky was there.
Quebec Nordiques jersey.
Yep.
San Antonio Iguanas jersey.
Yeah. Old CHL.
Calgary Flames original home jersey.
Yeah. Next one's kind of hard.
Notre Dame.
Oh, very nice.
And I can't really even see the colors on the final one.
It's blue and gold.
Blue and gold. I don't know that one. Is it an Oilers jersey?
No, original Sabres jersey.
I knew that with the circle patch with the cross sabers.
Yeah. And then you can't see them, but right here, well, let's see it. Let me tilt the camera.
You got the OU hockey jersey in there still?
The stupid mic's in the way. Hang on.
Okay, so then you've got the jerseys there. Let's see. Yeah. We got Mike Iaconelli. No, we got KVD, Mike Iaconelli, Skeet Reese, Dean Rojas.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that one on the end is.
Chris Prather.
Oh, yeah, the Chris Prather. No, like the top bowling guy in the world who you brokered a fishing deal with Strike King to be on his bowling jersey, which is kind of cool.
He is sporting the Strike King logo on his jersey right now. It's pretty impressive. It's cool. So
I guarantee no one got the jerseys in the background because the San Antonio Iguanas jersey is impossible to get. Everyone would have said Islanders.
So the reason those are actually jerseys that I wore when I played in the men's league, because we went by colors and we would all decide, all right, what color blue jersey do we want? You know, we did Whalers or Sabres, and then we get the jerseys and get them all decked out. You know, we didn't have the socks and the pants and all that to match or anything. It was just the jersey.
I like it. And then all of your bowling stuff over your shoulder there. I don't think a lot of people know one of your big purchases right before you stopped doing BTL and Bass Zone was you learned how to drill bowling balls out. So basically, like some guys make rods, some guys do that. You get a ball and you can mill it. You know, that's how the bowling stuff goes, is you based on your hand size and where you want your positioning. So you've got this big lathe drill press looking thing where you drill out all your bowling balls.
Yeah. Enjoying that, man. It's like mad scientist. It's like tinkering with lures. All right, now, hang on. I got to tell you this real quick. Okay. Season has been over for 3 weeks.
Bowling
How
season.
many weeks do you think that I've fished?
3.
3. All right. I've been on the water the last 3 weeks. You know what I did yesterday?
Waxed your pro style.
Do what?
Waxed your pro craft. You have a pro style or a pro craft?
Pro craft.
Pro craft. What did you do?
I actually tried active target for 2 hours.
And?
I didn't catch one.
Did you see one?
But I'm getting better at it. And can you get better at it without catching fish?
Absolutely.
But I'm kind of intrigued with it. I think I got it dialed in, and I'm gonna keep doing it. You know where we're going next week, dude? I've got
You're going bed fishing at Arbuckle.
Did that yesterday. They're not on the bed.
I had a buddy who was out there yesterday. He ended up catching some giant smallmouth though.
But they're not on the beds yet, are they? Did I miss them?
No, you didn't miss them. They're not on the beds yet.
There's all kinds of snot on the rocks.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You can't fish on the bottom at all.
I can't tell you the last time I fished on the bottom. What else you got?
Think back. When was the last time you fished on the bottom?
Like drug something on the bottom?
Like a jig, a football jig, a Carolina rig, a crankbait on the rocks.
I cranked at Kentucky Lake out of desperation. How's your health doing? I know a lot of people asked me that at the Classic that saw me. Wanted to know how that's going. You feeling good?
Yeah. Things are good. Got the back situation is much better. I've been fishing a ton since the season's over. Still bowling a lot. But I took 8 months off because of the back. I did the spinal nerve ablation, where they actually went into my back and they burned the nerves just off my spine.
But it's back. I know. I think. Yeah. I know you called and you were like, I've had it a week. It's not better. And we knew another guy in the industry who'd had it, and he had to let you know. It's like, hey, that's like a 6-month deal. Like you can't. It's not like they do it and you're better. Like you got some recovery time there, Mark.
Yeah.
You still can't taste anything.
Can't taste or smell.
And that's not from being sick. That's from the fall.
Yeah, but we were at Arbuckle.
Effects from that.
No, we were at Arbuckle yesterday, and there was a grass fire, or something was burning down there.
Yeah, I can smell that in Shawnee too.
Yeah, couldn't smell it. It. All right, hey, I hope people enjoy just the take that I have on something. I miss it, but at the same time, man, Matt, you are doing a heck of a job, and I can't tell you how proud I am of how you have evolved and truly taken this to the level that there is definite separation in what everybody else is doing compared to the level that you are performing at.
There's a lot of guys that are doing really cool stuff out there as well.
I agree, but man, you just take it to another level.
It's different. I enjoy watching and listening to all of the other, or a lot of the okay, I enjoy listening to the ones who, and this is just content creation across the board, right? They have an idea, an original idea, they bust their ass on it, they actualize it, they grow a fan base from it, and that's across content creation, fishing, challenges, podcasts, shows. Like, there's some really, really cool people in the industry right now, Mark, that have really come up over the past, 3 to 5 years that are doing big things. So
that's cool. And once again, I'm planning on being in the great state of Maine in July. And if anybody would like to take me fishing while I'm spending 5 days in Maine, we're going to fly into Portland. So
are you going to Bangor?
Dude, I don't know. I have no idea. You know why we're going to Maine? It's the only
eat lobster.
It's the only state I haven't been to.
Eat lobster. I've never been to Maine either, and it is so hard on my bucket list. Like, I grew up just obsessed with Paul Correa and Maine hockey.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to go to Maine, and then had some buddies who went up and they're like, dude, the yellow perch in Maine are off the chain. And I'm like, that's my favorite fish to catch. And then the smallmouth fishing up there is absolutely insane too. Plus the weather, plus the seafood, plus the scenery and the nature. Like, I've never been there, but I'm very jealous that you're going to Maine.
Yeah. So gonna spend 5 days in Maine. And
what time of the year? What do you know the dates? So people can email you, mark@basszone.com, if you want to take Mark Jeffries smallmouth bass fishing in Maine.
Somewhere. All right. The other thing that I'm really excited, I got 2 really cool trips coming up. One, I'm going to Cleveland the last week of April to recruit. There's a 2-day recruiting event there that I'll be attending. And then I'm spending 3 days with Uncle Frank.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to hit the big water. It just depends on the wind or the weather, but he's going to take me for 3 days, and we're going to check stuff out then. Then in May, I am headed to Lake Gunnersville for 4 days.
Oh, you are fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, bucket list stuff. I'm at the age where I've worked very hard.
How old are you now?
62.
Okay. Yeah, I always forget. I think Frank's 64. And when he comes here, I cart him around 15 different lakes and we drink beer at night, and it's like 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I forget, he's got more energy than I do.
He does. So, Greg, it's around the Portland area, Portland, Maine.
All right.
And then where we end up from there, I have no idea. So that's where we're flying into. But it's cool. Matt, hopefully you will invite me back, once every 3 or 4 months, catch up on stuff. I still watch everything. I don't follow it as closely, but I am really, and you never thought that you would hear me say this, I am really impressed with Easton. He is an impressive dude. And I think a lot of it has to do with his work ethic and just his whole demeanor. And he's going to be a really, really good classic champion. Very impressed.
I agree. All right, hang tight. I'm going to just throw you backstage. Going to close out the bonus show.
Okay.
Then we'll catch up. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, there you go. Mark Jeffries, hour and a half show. Little bonus show over 3 hours of live coverage on BTL today. We'll be back same time, same place. Uncle Frank tomorrow. It'll be interesting to get his take. I know he enjoyed meeting a lot of the viewers and listeners at the Bassmaster Classic along with Frank Scalish Jr. over the weekend. It was cool. He gave out autographed, one-of-a-kind speed ends that he helped develop. Remember, it almost was the classic winning bait back at the Gunnersville Classic that Hank Cherry won. But they put the FX color that he designed for the Perfect 10 Rogues on that crankbait. Actually got some extras that I brought back specifically for listeners and viewers who weren't able to go there. But this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We will talk to everyone later. See ya.